So if you're listening to
2124.
this podcast,
Find the next number in the sequence.
our hope is that you're listening to this 100, 200 years in the future, and you're trying to find out, hey, what was life like way back in the year 2024? Almost uh, near the turn of the millennium. Ben and I were there for the turn of the millennium, and we are now living into the 2020s, and it's all right.
Y2K
Um,
was a lot of people were frightened
yes.
regarding Y2K,
Now,
the year
what
2000.
what I know is that people who say that Y2K. So, for those of you who are not familiar with Y2K, and who knows, depending on when you're listening to this, it might have been an issue that you had to deal with when the year 3000 came around, if you're still using that calendar, and you're that far in the future. But to understand, when computer technology was taken hold, a lot of people didn't think about the fact that 2000 would mean that the two-digit year, because we used to, and Ben, you remember this,
Yeah,
we used to leave the 1900s off of the year. So what year we would say that it's 52 when
86.
writing the date.
Yeah.
And so when it came time for it to go to 2000, everyone was like, "Oh, wait a second. We're just using this two digit year. No one's going to know if we
Specifically,
mean,
right, specifically in regards to computer programming.
yeah, they're not going to know if we mean 1900 or 2000." And besides that, um, there is a thing where you can't divide by zero. Not that mattered to a lot of people, but if you were using 00 as the year, there's a possibility that it would be used in the calculation and break the calculation. So there's a lot of fear about this, and then nothing happened pretty much.
There was
And
the
people,
yeah, the different types of fears were like some computers are going to break the worst and so like you were sold boxes from say CompuServe or um Dell that were Y2K safe computers. But
mm-hmm,
the biggest fright that I remember people having was that even though the U.S. was being diligent in rewriting all of the computer programs to include a four-digit year, the Russians were not. And so, granted hearsay, of course,
yeah,
but what I heard was that the computers in charge of the Russian nuclear missiles were going
mm,
to malfunction and fire their nuclear arsenal at us. That was a real fear people had in Y2K.
yeah. And so that didn't happen. Just so you know, if you're listening to this in the future, it didn't happen. But I mean, the big thing is this: that a lot of people said, "I can't believe that we worried so much about Y2K and then nothing happened." Nothing happened because there were people that were worried about
Right.
it.
Nothing happened
And so
because a
if
lot of people did a lot of work to take care of it.
yeah, and if some people say, "Well, I never did it," well, that's true. But hey, Ben,
Paul.
speaking about um, what people remember about history and maybe misremember. You remember we were talking about this at one point in time. Uh, in fact, I believe when it was happening, the the war in Iraq that started.
Yes.
The I guess the second war in Iraq, I believe. The first one, of course, 1991, the winter time of 1991. Around that period, there
Are you
was
talking about
Desert Shield, I believe.
Operation? Well, the police activity was called
Yeah,
Operation Desert Shield, but then the actual war was called Operation
uh,
Desert Storm.
and that was in 1991.
Yeah, around then, yeah.
Okay, so then what was the second war called? Do you remember?
The second war. I mean, you're not.
The
Are you
one
talking
the
about the
one
one in
when
2003?
in 2003, yeah.
I don't know if that had
Was
a.
it called Desert Storm 2?
I. Camel Boogaloo. I don't know if that had an
Mm.
operational name that they disseminated as widely as Desert Storm.
So,
Operation
regardless,
George W. Bush wants to take revenge on Saddam Hussein for him attempting an assassination on George H.W. Bush just doesn't roll right off the tongue like Desert Storm
yeah.
did.
So here's the thing is that there was this guy who was like, we all thought, this is what he said, we all thought, and this is in quotes, we all, I'm not saying it, this other guy is saying it, we all thought that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. And if you didn't think that, or if you're saying you didn't think that, you're wrong and you're misremembering. Either you're lying or you're misremembering because we
Right.
all thought that it did. And I remember,
Colin Powell told us so.
I believe that Brett Fetzer actually wrote an article for The Stranger about how that wasn't about how there aren't really weapons, something to that effect.
Like, maybe, I
Like
don't know if he knew definitively that, but he said that going to war was a bad idea.
yeah, people that we knew, people that we were hanging out with, uh, did say that that was not what was happening. That they were getting us into a war and that we shouldn't get into a war. That was the idea that everybody wanted this war because they thought Iraq had weapons of mass destruction is incorrect.
I remember.
Maybe this guy and his friends, but there were people that we knew. I'm not saying that I would never believe that I would have said yes, it's a good idea for us to go to war with Iraq. I don't think I would have said that. But I'm not saying that I didn't because I can't say for sure. This used to drive people nuts when they said, "Paul, did you put this file in the wrong place?" I would say, "The file is in the wrong place. I cannot say that I put it there because I would not intentionally put a file in the wrong place. So I cannot definitively say that I put it there. I can say that I might have put it there on accident, but because it is on accident, I can't tell you that I did it." And they would hate it. Same sort of thing. I don't think that I would have advocated us going to war with Iraq. Me, Paul Goody, person
Right.
living in Seattle in 2003 or whatever.
I.
But I
Yeah.
don't remember myself being against it, but I do remember other people. And so the idea that everyone was for it and everyone thought there were weapons of mass destruction, incorrect, is
I
what
don't,
I'm saying.
I'm kind of with you. I don't remember what my stance was at the time. I'm pretty sure, and now granted, this is talking about it in 20 years on. I'm pretty sure that I would have not wanted us to go to war, but I would not have been vocal about that, nor would I have been vocal about the about us going to war. I would not have taken a stance either way, but I would have preferred us not.
Mm-hmm. New topic. Starting new topic. Uh,
Thank you. New topic.
there is a guy uh, named Robert Allen Mitchell, Bob Mitchell, who was my first like. Okay, so I was in an improv group called American Scream, and that was in like the early '90s. But my first kind of improv group that I really like felt like no, that's not true. American Scream, I felt like it was good too. I felt like I had a lot of fun. Now I'm starting to think of all the sketches that we were a sketch slash improv group. Same thing with the nonprofits, which is the second group that I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
no, I take it back. The second group that I was in, but I really respected Bob and he was a funny guy and he was a good teacher because he taught improv at the college that I did my second stint of college at. I did my first stint, got a degree, second stint, and then the semester before I got my BFA in acting, I quit to go to Canada. And then I went to Seattle and I met Benjamin Lawrence, and the rest is history. But the thing is that Bob uh, and I didn't hadn't talked in like 20 years, and maybe talked a little bit, maybe saw each other once or twice when I came back, but we never really performed together or anything like that after that time. And whenever I would see this guy whose name is Steve Herrick, Steve is I think he's a PhD. Wrote, yeah, because I think either PhD or master's. Wrote, and Steve Herrick, if you're ever listening to this, I apologize for
Write
not
us and let us know.
knowing your level of education. Write us at Ben's email at yahoo.com at gmail. Is that right?
Ben's
Ben's
email
email
at
at
yahoo.com at
yahoo.com at
gmail.com. Yes.
gmail.com. And we made it hard for you to contact us on
On
purpose.
purpose.
There's a
Intentionally.
lot of there are a lot of roadblocks that we make between potential listeners finding the show, and then if they do find the show, contacting us, um, which is fine.
Don't contact
So
us.
so
Please.
Steve was in the nonprofits as well. Um, and whenever I would see Steve, he would always say, "Oh yeah, Bob Mitchell wants your contact information." I'd say, "Yeah, go ahead and give it to him." And then Bob would then not contact me, and I couldn't find him. And then I had a dream, Ben,
I
2 or 3
dreamt of
days
his
ago.
phone
A
number.
performance. Well, sort of. I dreamt that I had to contact him.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, I wonder why. So then I looked into it, and it turns out a couple of different things. One, there was an August Wilson, like, uh, sort of,
Retrospective. Play.
retrospective or whatever
Performance.
at
Celebration.
the Black Rep in Seattle, not Seattle, St. Louis, Missouri,
Okay.
in St. Louis, Missouri in 2018 when I was here.
This is an actual thing that happened, not something that was
Yeah,
in the dream. Okay.
that's right. I woke up and then this other stuff happened. Or I found out about this other stuff. So 2018, and Bob Mitchell, who lives in New Orleans now, came
Knowledge.
to St. Louis and was in that. So I would have had a chance to see him had I known. But in the program for that, I saw that he had started the nonprofits in New Orleans. It's Nonprofit South. And so I was able to contact him, and because their phone number was there, and I said, "Is this Bob Mitchell?" And he said, "Is this Paul Goody?" And I'm like, "Yes." My number had been in his phone the whole time. And he
This
said that he couldn't
entire time.
remember why he wanted me to contact him. And I said, "Because you like me." And he's like, "Well, yes."
That goes without saying,
Uh,
Paul, but I must have had a reason.
yeah, that's exactly what he said. He must have had some sort of a project he was doing that he wanted to contact me about, but it didn't happen. So I said to him that I feel like there's a portion of my life that had been shut off that is now reopened because Bob, an instructor of mine, and also we played role playing games together, and just now back in, and so now I'm reconnected to the nonprofit side of my life, which is pretty cool. And I told
Congratulations.
him about GudeLaurance and was very proud of what we did. I said, "I can't believe that you don't know any of it." So I need to send him
Yeah, you need to go
the
to
link to the stuff.
GudeLaurance.com. There you'll find almost everything I've been able to collect and compile.
Yes, that's one thing that I told him about. And for those of you who don't know, so GudeLaurance was a very prolific, I would say, performance art duo in
Yeah.
Seattle, Washington, in the early 2000s.
early 2000s to mid 2010s is.
Yes. And
In fact, we're coming up on 10 years since you've moved away, Paul Goody.
I know I don't like it. Um, there would have been more for people to watch, but I instituted this thing, and I still agree with it, that theater being ephemeral, being there not, that there are some things that you can't, that if you weren't there, you cannot see it. It has happened and then it is gone. I liked that part of it. And so when people were there to
It's,
film,
especially when it doesn't work.
I would ask them, yes, hey, look, I know. So there were times when I said, don't film us.
Yeah.
Turn off the cameras
That
when
is
we're
when
on.
that's when we had like guys from the public access TV
Yep.
station here in Seattle, who like you never could tell the quality. Like you never, whenever I like set up a camera to record it for us, there was never any pushback from that. That was just gonna like go on our YouTube and stuff.
Oh, I forgot, Ben. One of the reasons why I made that decision,
The TV show
I
you were on.
forgot this. No, well, the TV show I was on, yes, but that was not the only reason. I I said it was because I was on a TV show and I didn't want a conflict of things. But the other thing was because they edited one of our pieces when it was on, and so it wasn't as we they
Are
put
you
it
talking
on
about
they
Blood,
put it on the
Blood, Blood?
channel. I'm talking about Blood, Blood, Blood. Part of
Two
Blood, Blood,
different
Blood.
people. Two Blood, Blood, Blood was recorded by the Seattle channel, which is a city-owned,
Oh,
like
that's
a
who I was.
municipal channel. But that old guy and his assistants who showed up when you were doing lull work, that guy was from who God knows where, just like Scan TV, I think is what it was called.
Okay. You heard it here first. Confessional, wasn't tracking those were two different people.
Yeah.
And also I was doing lull work at the time. Oh, now it can be told. Yeah. So I was on a reality TV show based around the work that I was doing with Ben Huh and his company. Ben Huh, um, famously not a big fan of me, because I would complain about the company's business practices on camera all the time. Uh,
I could see why that would get under his skin, seeing as how it was his
yeah,
business.
I mean, yeah, I was a jerk. I
So
was a
he,
jerk
oh, he
to
may have
him
been
and
a
his
jerk, but he
business.
also probably didn't sound like he was receptive to feedback.
Well,
Unless you were being like a bigger jerk than like giving constructive criticism.
um, okay.
You suck for not paying us more, kind of thing.
No, no, I would say this. So here's the idea. They have let's say you have a cute picture of your animal. They say, hey, we'd like to use your cute picture. We'd like to use a cute picture of your
And we're
animal.
not gonna pay for it.
Can we use it? Please give us permission. And
Yeah.
then if you said no, they might offer you some money. They might say, hey, oh, can we give you this thing, and then you'll do it. And if you say no, they will find an animal that looks like your animal, take a picture that looks like your picture, and then
Jesus.
put their caption on it anyway. And and
Back
and
before you could
then
just
they
have
own
an
it.
AI do that.
Yeah. Oh shoot. I wonder, Ben. Mm. Ben
Wonderbed
Lawrence.
tonight at
Wonder
9.
Ben. But let's talk about that too. Well, we already talked about that, but yeah, if you can't own something, right? If you're This is what I'm wondering about. So, have I talked to you already about? Yeah, I talked to you already about this. That I'm using Adobe Firefly, looking
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really good. It used to suck, and now it's all right. So good for them. But I am wondering if they own Firefly and they own the stock images that Firefly is making things off of. If an employee of Adobe makes an image off of the stock images off of the AI that Adobe owns, can Adobe say they own that image? If I make it, there's question. But what if Adobe people make it?
I'm guessing that the Adobe employees have signed a contract saying anything they generate while an employee of Adobe belongs to Adobe.
Well, and this is the reason I'm wondering, right? Because the concept is that there's a rule that you can't copyright something made by AI because of, how complicated it is in the way that it's made and stuff, because a person isn't making it. But
Right.
what if a corporation made it? Corporations then
Corporations are people,
famously
according to the Supreme Court.
are
So
known as people. Yes. So yeah, if the corporation did all of the things, if they own the source material and they made the algorithm and they generated the image, do they own it? Ooh, good
Part three,
question. Mark the
profit.
type stamp it or timestamp it. It's
I have
uh
21 minutes 24
four
seconds.
420, Benny. Benny. I
Betty?
said 420, Ben, at on
422.
February 1st. Oh, my watch is slow. Oh,
Nice.
uh, so anyway, who knows? Who knows? I think that if I were Adobe, I'd try it. I'd try to make the argument. Oh, hey, by the way, this episode of the GudeLaurance podcast brought to you by Cheetos Flamin' Hot Minis.
Flamin' Hot
Uh,
Minis.
so this is what they are. They're tiny,
I
what one would think would be cheese balls, but they're,
Closer to your face. Close. There you go. They kind of look like kicks.
they're bigger. They're about Crunchberry size.
Get your kicks on Route 66. There's a box of
Speaking
cereal
about
in the
which,
middle of the road.
oh,
Or like
I
tricks.
like it.
Yeah. Get your tricks on Route 66, and there's a anyway.
I like Kicks better, Ben. I think you got it right the first time.
Twix. I mean Twix. Tricks,
No, Kicks.
not Twix. Tricks were my favorite though. Tricks. I liked Tricks better
Mm.
when I was a kid. Although Lucky Charms was my jam. That was my favorite. That was
Yeah.
my sugary cereal of choice.
There's a store near here who sells just the. I think I told you about this already.
Oops, our
Just the marshmallows.
Yeah.
Yep. In a bag. You
I
feel
bought-
like it's drugs.
I bought one. I know they look like a bunch of like a 5-pound bag of Molly. I bought a bag of
I don't know what Molly looks like.
I bought a bag.
Take your word for it.
It looks like candy, I think. I bought a bag of those
Oh, no.
marshmallows for my nephew when he was a kid. My sister said he went. It was like it was like a 5-pound bag of just Lucky Charms marshmallows.
Yeah.
And my sister said he went through those that in like a week.
Yeah, marshmallows. Those
I was
tiny
amazed.
marshmallows. Very easy to eat a lot of them.
Yeah.
all the
Also,
time.
they're not that great when they go south when they get stale. So you do have to eat them quickly. Especially
I do
if you're like a
actually like
13-year-old
them.
kid, you could probably do it pretty fast.
Here's the thing. I like the Lucky Charms marshmallows when they get stale and a little chewy. I like regular marshmallows, regular mini marshmallows when they get stale and get crunchy. I just like the transition either way.
Not a fan. I
Those
gotta
items.
tell you, Paul. Even though we have a storied history of using marshmallows in our performances, I'm not a fan. I never did. I never did like marshmallows.
I do like them. I do admit. Look, it's me. It's me. Mustache. I'm just the guy with the mustache, and then all of a
Mustache
sudden,
Goody.
beard. It happens. So.
I haven't shaved in a couple days. I shaved on Tuesday. Today's Thursday. I
Oh.
shaved on Tuesday because I had a meeting where I had to look professional. Well, I didn't have to look professional, but I wanted to.
We need to talk about something after the podcast. So there's one again. If we ever started a Patreon, you'd be able to listen to me talk to Ben
How
about
much?
stuff.
How much would you pay us on a monthly basis to listen to the stuff that Paul and I talk after we stop recording? Let us know at Ben's email at yahoo.com at gmail.com.
That's right. We do not have a Patreon right now. No plans to have one.
Not
I
unless
will
you
tell
want to
this-
do it. I'm not
I
doing
will
it.
tell you. Yeah, no, like I said, but Ben and I have said this before. If there's ever a Patreon, I need help. Please help me, because I'm so out of money that it seems like a good idea to disappoint people monthly for. I'm kidding. Okay, Ben. I'm going to tell you. I have an idea for a podcast.
Oh, God. He says
Now I
on
know
a
that we have a
podcast.
podcast, but what I'm saying is that I don't know. Maybe we turn this podcast into it. I don't know. It's called Paul Finds Out, right? we have listeners. Listeners need me, Paul Goody, to tell them about something. And I go out and use all of the tools at my disposal to find out about the thing they've asked me about. And then I do a presentation to you, Ben, about it. And then you ask me questions. It's called Paul Finds Out.
Uh,
So,
and by circumstance, Ben finds out as well.
yes, exactly. Paul and Ben find, maybe that's
There you
it.
go. Paul and Ben
Paul and
find
Ben
out.
find out. Do we want to do a pilot of Paul and Ben Find Out with Stephen McCandless giving us our topic?
Well, McCandless, if you're listening at all, email us or text me or text Paul.
Email.
Actually, text
No. Email us at Paul's. Oh no.
Paul and Ben finds out at yahoo.com, at iCloud.com, at gmail.com.
Ben, you can't set that up. That's too much work. Ben's email address is it just Ben's email?
Ben's email at yahoo.com.
Okay.
At gmail.com.
So yeah, Ben's email at yahoo.com at gmail.com. Let us know, and we can do a pilot version.
I'm not going to tell Steven about this. This will only happen
if he
happens to hear this episode.
If he hears this,
yeah,
and decides to do it, then
we'll anybody else. There are a couple other people I know that listen to the show, occasionally.
Yeah.
So if
you happen to listen to it,
if you happen to hear this part of the show, if you've made it 27 minutes into
because Ben and I did talk about making an entirely different podcast inside of this podcast before. What is it after how many years we do it? Or is it at a number? Is it at 800 we do it? What is do you remember?
I don't actually.
What limit you gave? So we're circumventing not remembering what number it is by just doing it now. It's the secret pilot. If you guys want to hear it, just say, hey, I'd like to find out about blank, and then whatever it is you want to find out about. And for the first person who says, hey, I want to find out about blank, and they actually write blank out, we'll figure it out. We'll
do a whole show on the etymology of blank.
Exactly. This is the thing. All you want to do is you want to write to us and say, I want to find out about, and then whatever. And then whatever it is, no matter what you put there, we will interpret it and then do the show about it. Now, I want to say this also at the offset, just so that no one is confused, surprised, or disappointed. We will be doing the exact same amount of editing as we're doing right now. I will have a piece of paper that I will be reading off of. There will be no graphics. There will be no... Now, here's the thing. If it goes well, and if something very horrible happens to me, maybe then we will turn it into a more intense thing, but probably not.
Now that's Patreon worthy.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. What we are doing now is we're doing a blueprint for a Patreon.
Horrible things happening to Paul. That's a.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Yes.
Guaranteed to get some cash, just to keep it from happening.
Yeah, exactly. Horrible things will happen. Hey, unless we meet our goal, Paul gets his ears pierced.
That was a National Lampoon magazine, like a famous cover story where.
Oh yeah, we'll kill this dog.
Yeah.
By this.
Yeah. By this magazine, or we'll kill this dog. Yeah. And there's a dog, with a gun to its face, and the dog had a very good expression for not knowing what was happening, but having a gun pointed at its head.
So, oh man.
For those who care, they didn't actually shoot the dog. The dog was never in danger.
Buy this magazine or we'll kill this dog, and the dog looks happy.
Okay.
Just
I've
very
had a
happy.
horrible life. Make it end.
Somebody said, gun to your head, name a color without the letter E in it.
Okay.
And somebody said green. The idea being that they wanted to be shot in the head. That's a meme that somebody did, I believe.
Every time you see like a news story about somebody who just had some sort of like horrific accident and passed away, ultimately in the bio of this person is there's a sentence like so and so really enjoyed life, loved every minute of life, was so full of joy, and that you never see, this person was killed in a freak accident. They were a miserable prick and probably are pretty stoked that this happened.
There's a okay, so I don't think I've mentioned this to you before, but there's a band called Thou, Thou,
Uh huh.
that does scream stuff. They scream
Scream
when
stuff.
they it's like metal.
Okay.
I think it's called sludge metal, I want to say.
I've never heard of sludge metal.
And then there's another band that does sort of the same thing called The Body. And when they play together, they're called The Body and Thou.
The
And I
body and
recommend
thou.
listening to their cover of Nine Inch Nails' Terrible Lie.
Terrible
Um,
lies.
yeah, but it's Terrible Lie. It's good though. Um, but what was I going to say about it? Oh, I believe it's
Yeah.
on their
Why are
album
we picking this up?
that's entitled "You Whom I Have Always Hated," which I think is a great title for an album, is what I would say.
However grammatically incorrect it may be.
So I'm going to tell you something. I am now doing Tai Chi, which is pretty good. And I've also stopped
Doing
having
Tai
any
Chi.
sort of a diet. So I weigh 214 pounds now, but I feel better than I have in the past. And when I was on a more restrictive diet, I did not feel good, and my emotions were bad.
I Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear you say that. I know another person who like was on a pretty restrictive diet, and not just for like losing weight reasons, but like doctor's orders, like stay away from this
Hmm.
food, stay away from that food. These foods are terrible for you, and it wrecked them. Like the emotional pits and valleys that they found themselves in just
Yeah.
because of the things that they love that they couldn't eat anymore. And once they were given the all clear from the doctor to like introduce those things back into their diet, like refined sugars and
Hmm.
dairy and meat and all that, once they didn't have to worry about those kinds of things, they became much happier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of it for me is that, Jennifer cooks what she cooks. She makes what she makes. And if I'm not able to eat it,
Then you have to
the
make your own
food
food.
the food just goes to waste. And yeah, and but then the other thing is also, in some ways I'm not eating enough. I'm just eating enough to survive and not, and I could do it. I can do it. And this is not me, saying that I'm a quitter or a loser or anything when I say that I'm not doing this. I've made the
Nobody thinks that.
intentional choice to stop doing it.
Yeah.
Um, and Ben, if you bet me right now, no, I'm
Start the
not.
clock.
Start the clock. No, 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 no. But and I mean, this is the thing: is part of it is this the anti OCD therapy stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah.
It is amazing what I recognize now as being. I'm gonna go into a bit here in just a second.
Uh
What I
oh.
recognize as being OCD, because the thing is that your mind, this is all genuine. Your mind tells you, oh well, I'm just doing this because of blank. Oh well, I'm not I'm not drinking out of this one glass because I'm afraid of getting germs from other people. I just drink out of this one glass because I like this. This is my favorite glass. I have to drink out of this glass. And then I don't have to wash this glass. So this glass is always clean. So I know that when I use this glass, it's clean. Whereas other glasses, I don't know what people, oh no. You realize. Uh,
Yeah.
and so, and I think I've mentioned this before, but my therapist, it is very much like Project Mayhem on Fight Club. Uh, so I have a thing like, okay, I am going to drink out of uh, a glass that has been left on the counter that is full of something, right? I'm going to drink that. I'm going to drink out of that glass. So there's leftover iced tea that Jennifer put there, um, you know, 6 hours ago. I'm going to drink that glass of leftover iced tea, etc.
Right.
And what it's about is learning to sit with being uncomfortable, and it works out pretty well. But there's one thing that I learned just yesterday, which is that it's listening to the language that you use when you talk about something. So, for instance, I should really write this person an email. When you say I should really write it, you're saying that there's a moral authority above you that you need to listen to because you haven't written the email. So it's obvious that you are procrastinating from writing the email, but you should do it. So you feel as though there's some greater moral sense about, et cetera, et cetera. So, so instead of saying I should write that email, um, you could say, as an example, I'm going to write that email. I'm going to write that email in the next 5 minutes, or
You make it a
I'm
choice
going
as
to,
opposed to an
yeah,
obligation.
I'm going to set aside some time so I finish that email,
Yeah.
etc.
This is
In the
something
same
wait,
way,
this is one thing that you're learning through your OCD therapy?
yeah, exactly, that's right. And the part of the reason was I don't talk about work. My therapist caught me saying I should finish this email before I log out of my computer.
Yeah.
And the recommendation was to say I would prefer I finish this email before I log out of my computer.
Okay,
Because that's
Bartleby.
really, yeah, exactly.
I would
I
prefer not
can't,
to.
yeah. And that's the other thing. I can't, right? I think I told you this story before, but this guy said, I can't use the elevator, right? And then the therapist said to him, okay, follow me. So they left the office and they walked to the elevator and he pressed the door and therapist got in, held the door and said, okay, I want to see you bounce off whatever force field keeps you from going into the elevator. The guy said, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you've proven that you can walk through doors because we left my office.
Yeah.
You've proven that you can walk forward because we went all the way down the hall to over here. So just walk into the elevator. And he was like, I can't. Well, you can
I
do
think
all the
you
steps
can.
that get you onto this elevator. That you have to come to grips to the idea that it's not that you can't, it's that you don't want to. And not wanting to use the elevator is okay. But,
It's actually more
there
healthy for
is
you
a
to take the
difference.
stairs.
Yeah.
I mean,
There
was
is,
this so? Was this therapist like in this story? Is this therapist being like instructional, and are they being like? Are they trying to open the person's eyes to this larger issue, or are they just being mean and
okay,
like
so here's what I would
confrontational?
say. I was not watching this unfold. This is the therapist talking about you know his experience. This is like
Right.
a lecture that he was
Yeah.
given.
Yeah. Yeah.
Given. So he's talking to a bunch of therapists about one of his clients, which I think is fine and probably
Nothing.
totally cool.
Yeah. Nothing
Um,
unethical about that.
you're not. I mean, they're not saying I had this therapist named Jonah Hill, who's or whatever. They're not they're not saying who the who the person
Right.
is, et cetera, et cetera. But I will say, I like my therapist a lot. I think that our therapy is helpful. You, as the uh, client, you do you do feel them push on your boundaries,
Right.
right? They and they are not sympathetic when they do that. I'm trying to think of, they are like, okay, okay, are you ready? They're like, okay, now we're gonna do this, this, and that. It's very,
They're blunt,
yeah, but they're also like, are you okay? Where are you? So they're always checking in,
but
right?
caring.
So there's a fear level,
Yeah.
right, from 1 to 10, and they're like, where are you at? And you say, I'm at a 7, or I'm at a, and you you work that out, right? It's like the pain scale. But yeah, if you like, okay, as an example, the things that they want you to be is uncomfortable, right? They don't want you they don't want you coping or using coping strategies, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, as an example, one of my recent things I've been doing is they give me a riddle or a brain teaser or whatever, and I solve it, but I can't tell them that I've solved it. I can't indicate that I've solved it in any way, right? And they move on to the next one in like 10 seconds. And if I haven't solved it, I can't go back to solve it. I have to focus on just the new one, right? And so part of it is like, and the reason we're doing this is that sometimes I'm working on a puzzle of some kind. Jennifer and Betty are in the car. We're supposed to be going to the grocery store, and I'm still working on the puzzle, right?
Right. Yeah.
So so the idea is me leaving a puzzle undone.
Right.
And I can't tell if I finished it or not, because that's the other thing, is that if I finish it, oh, I finished this brain teaser in 10 seconds, haha, that's cool of me. That is also not part of the exercise. So I have to say, and for a little while it was 30 seconds, and so they would tell they'd tell it to me, and then it would just be, they were on a Zoom call, so it's like this. So they were telling it to me, and then I would do this until the 30 seconds were up. And so we decided to make it just 10
Yeah.
because it was unnerving. Um,
Yeah, it is.
but yeah, so you get the idea. There's um, but one of the things, right, is that um, I figured out that I if I got it right, then I'd have a little kind of haha, I got it right sort of thing. So I couldn't do that little
Good
haha,
for
right?
me.
I couldn't make a face, I couldn't do any of that. And then my therapist started going, and if you got it or you didn't get it, I'm not going to know. Probably going to assume you didn't figure it out. Which was done specifically so that I couldn't comfort myself with the knowledge that I got it,
Right.
because now, even though they're not a jerk, they're going to say, I'm going to, and that's another example of it would be like, I so I'm supposed to drink out of Betty's glass, let's say. So Betty drinks out of a glass, and then I drink out of it. And so we're sitting there, and then my therapist will go, so you said that Betty stayed home from school a couple of days ago because she had a fever? Okay. Stuff like that to make me remember that there are germs and stuff like that. So there is digging. There is a little bit of that stuff. I mean, both ways, right? Uh, and it's actually really good. And I know that sounds
You
like
feel like
something that,
it's all working for you?
yeah, I really do. I feel more competent
Is there a
in doing stuff.
Have you gotten to the point where you find that your behavior is changing for these things that you're
Yeah,
working on without you thinking about it?
absolutely. That is exactly what you've just described. For example, I no longer uh, notice when I'm walking on cracks and on the tiles on floors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I like just right now is one of the first times that I've thought about it because I was thinking of an example. Because for a while I was intentionally stepping on them, and then I was trying to not tell whether or not I was stepping on them, etc. Now, when I think back on it, I remember it being important, but now it isn't. Now I don't do it
Right.
anymore. There are a couple. There's a list of those. One of the things that I just took out is so when I'm watching, and this is one of the great examples of how this works. So I would be watching TV, and uh, a woman and her husband are in an argument on the TV show, and I'd have Edward there, and I'd be like, Edward, it's okay. They're just actors. They're not really mad at each other. It's fine. She was like, so what you're doing is you're using Edward to sort of talk to yourself
Yeah.
about this. You're reassuring Edward, but you're reassuring yourself.
Right.
I need you to stop doing that. What you're going to do instead is, and this is the thing that I like about this therapy stuff. It's not you're not going to talk to Edward again, right? But what it is when I talk to Edward, I say, "Well, Edward, we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to have to watch and find out."
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, "Oh, Edward, it's okay." And so there's a lot of that. Like, if let's say I would be worried about getting sick from getting, oh, I got my shingles vaccine, which you don't have to get for a little while.
Three
Shingles
more
vaccine
years,
is
I
at
guess.
50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming up
So
on
I
two
got it.
years.
Um, the shingles vaccine, by the way. Oh, when's your birthday again, Ben?
March. March 9th.
Huh. March 9th. Okay.
So like a little more
Okay.
than a month away.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the big thing is this that your shingles vaccine, just as bad as COVID shot as far as feeling, crummy afterwards.
Ah. Well, that's how you know it's working.
Which and so, but when I was getting it, I was nervous, right? What if I feel bad?
Yeah.
And regular therapy might say, well, just tell yourself you're going to be fine. No matter what, you're going to be fine. Um, this sort of therapy, that's not what it is. It's, well, you could be okay. You could get really sick. You might, you know, die from complications. You don't know. You're going to have to wait and find out.
Right.
But you don't know that you're going to
So it's
die any more than you know
it's
that you're not going to die.
all about being comfortable with not knowing.
Being comfortable with not knowing and being able to sit in being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? So, the idea of like, you know, this person's mad at me. I don't know that they're mad at me. I don't know that they're not mad at me either. And in the long run, it doesn't matter, which it is because I can't control it.
Right.
That sort of thing. It's really great as far as a philosophy goes. It does feel very. I'm not going to say punk rock necessarily, but sort of nihilistic, sort of punk rock. Not everything is. That's the big thing. Not everything is going to be okay.
Just gotta go with the flow, man.
Go with the flow, man. Hey, it's me.
I'm the flow man.
That's right. I'm I'm a huge fan of that waitress in that TV show. You got it. It's me, Mel. Uh,
Is that another person from that ad campaign?
isn't Alice? Wasn't there someone named Flo on Alice, the TV show
Oh,
Alice?
yeah.
And wasn't Mel the name of the cook?
I have no idea.
Yeah, this is right. I mean, right before my time.
Yeah.
So I remember some of it, but I wasn't allowed to watch TV at that time.
I'm gonna look this up because
It,
now I am.
I think Flo is the name. I do like the idea that someone calls Mel the Flow Man because all they can remember is Flo from the.
Yeah, you're totally right. I don't. I had the TV show Alice confused with another TV show, but yeah, Vic Tayback played Mel Sharples.
Vic Tayback. That's right. What else was Vic Tayback in?
And well, hang on a sec. And Polly Holiday played Flo Castleberry.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think she was the one who coined the phrase "kiss my grits."
well, kiss my grits. Vic Tayback was also he was in an episode of MacGyver.
Oh, I
Um,
think he was in the episode of The Twilight Zone,
he was
wasn't he?
a voice of Carface in All Dogs Go to Heaven. I'm trying to look at other TV shows that I recognize. He had a pretty long career. I mean, he's got 150 acting credits.
Yeah, I want to say that he was in an episode of The Twilight Zone where there was a talking doll, talking Tina.
Oh wow, that's getting to be a deep cut. He was in an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents as Man Talking to Cab Driver. One of his first credits. I'm looking for F Troop. He's Bill Colton in F Troop. Only one episode though. I'm looking for a Twilight Zone. So he did a lot of classic like 60s and 70s TV shows. Get Smart, The Monkees, Star Trek.
Oh,
Um,
you can actually search on
he was
IMDb
in
now.
That
I
Girl.
think inside his.
Yeah, but I want to look at like everything he's done. So
Oh,
then he's a
everything he's done. Yeah,
Mary Tyler Moore Show, Bewitched, Columbo. Yeah, Court Spavetti's father. He did a lot. He was a working actor back in the
Vic
day.
Tayback, man. I remembered see he was one of the first actors that I remember seeing in something going, hey, that's the guy from blank.
Yeah.
The other thing was the guy who played James, JJ's father in Good Times, was in the Beastmaster, and I recognized him in both.
Uh,
And Mark Singer from the Beastmaster and from V. I remembering him in both of those
V
too.
V scared me. Of course, it came out when I was a wee kid.
Yeah, yeah, me too, me too.
Um, let's
I'll
see.
tell you, man, it felt when I was a kid at that age, it felt like V was going to start happening any day. That we would that this is like what the plan was, but it didn't. At least not that I know of. Bum, bum, bum.
There was actually the TV show I was thinking of. Um, I'm gonna have to look up because I can't remember the name of it. But there was I think it was a spin-off. Maud. Maud was a spin-off because Maud had B. Arthur in it.
Yeah, I remember that.
And was it a spin-off of the Mary Tyler Moore Show? Yeah, I think it was. Anyway, anyway,
Nick
this
Tayback, Twilight Zone, Talking Tina.
this moment. Oh,
Seriously,
do you want to look
I
it
think
up?
yeah. Well, wait, do I want to look it up myself?
No,
Uh,
you want to
I'm
prove
pretty
that you
confident.
actually know that? Prove
I'm
that you
pretty
actually know
confident
that?
that it's correct. But wait, you know what? No, I don't need to. Don't need to. This
I'm
is
not.
therapy, Ben. Never look it up. Never look it up. Don't tell me if
I'm
I'm
not
right.
seeing a search function for a specific IMDb
Oh, so
person.
what you do is you go to his page. It might only be
Just
on
Control
mobile.
F.
If you go on his page, so I can tell you on mobile, right? If you go to mobile and you type in Vic Tayback, oh here I'm on Ralph Innocent, right?
I don't think he's got one. I did a search and there's no Twilight Zone credit on his under his acting credits.
Really?
I think you're wrong, Paul.
Maybe well, let's see. Oh, you know what? No, I'm not going to look it up. I'm not going to look it up.
What was that? Okay, so There's another Twilight Zone actor who has a similar name, who is the one who died in the helicopter accident.
Yeah, but that's
He was a
oh,
was he
maybe
a
it's the
victor
Outer
too?
Limits. Uh, okay, I'm gonna look it up. Vic Tayback.
Twilight Zone the movie. Albert Brooks was in that? I remember Albert Brooks being in that. Al Young was in it. Vic Morrow. I knew it was a Vic.
Vic Morrow what?
Vic Morrow was the actor in John Landis's Twilight Zone, who
Oh,
died along with two kids when a helicopter crash landed on top of them. A pretty famous Hollywood accident, mainly because John Landis suffered pretty much no consequences, even
the
though.
Mandela effect. Ben, I've changed universes.
So is Vic Tayback the one you were thinking of initially?
No, okay, so this is the thing. And I'm going to tell you this for real. I thought when we were talking about Vic Tayback, I thought, wasn't he in the Twilight Zone in Talking Tina? No, that was Telly Savalas. No, Telly Savalas wouldn't do a Twilight Zone. Are you kidding me? He's way too big of a actor for that. It was Telly Savalas. In this reality,
Living
um,
Doll,
yep,
the
Living
name of
Doll,
the
Talking Tina.
episode.
So yeah, um,
Telly Savalas
I'm
played
glad that I
Eric
found out.
Streeter.
Glad I found out I was wrong.
Talkie Tina,
Hooray!
who's June Foray.
Who's that?
June Foray is a pretty famous voice actress. She played Rocky in Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh, okay. As opposed to June 4B, who lives next door. Yeah, it's a dumb joke, but I
Heyo.
love it.
Yeah.
Hey, so Ben, we're almost approaching the end of the episode.
Couple more minutes left.
What? Once again, very happy to be talking to you, as always. And also great to we didn't talk about it, but wonderful to see Lindsay in the last episode. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Again, shocking, surprising. I don't like change, but I like Lindsay, so it worked out okay. Uh,
As you can see, though, I am back home. Actually, I'm not in the
yeah.
theater. I'm in my own home.
Yes. For those of you who don't, feel free to go to the YouTube. You can see Ben and I talking to one another. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Almost like we're looking at each other. But I am mostly looking at me. But
Yeah.
there's we're opening a show at Annex next week, and so there's lots of activity in the theater. So
What's
I'm
the
gonna
show?
have to fly. This is how we're gonna have to fly for the short term. I'm gonna have to do the show from home. The show is called Tenderness. It's got 6 shows. It opens Thursday the 8th, a week from today. Well, preview Thursday the 8th. Opens on the 9th.
Ah, yes. Tenderness. It's the Untouchables, but a love story.
That's exactly what it is. You've cracked it.
Hey.
It's very touchable, actually.
Oh, Ben.
Hey.
That's the stuff.
We did it.
Here we go.
Workshop in comedy.
Oh, and once again, for those of you keeping track, I am back to singing in a lower register. And it feels so nice.
Were you trying to sing more in an upper register?
Occasionally I do sing in an upper register, but the lower register feels so much better.
Whatever makes you comfortable, man. Don't blow your vocal cords out.
I started speaking in a higher register, so that I could speak faster. For whatever reason, it seems to me that the higher pitched I am, the faster I can talk.
I'm sure it makes sense to you.
I used to talk like this back when I was a kid, which is strange. And so I would drive around in the car and I would pitch my voice higher and higher. So right now, when I'm speaking pretty high up in my range,
I'm I'm I'm
and my
I'm
my
wondering if
actual
that's an
ranges are
artifact
more
of
right
like
around
when
here.
you like physically speed up a tape, the pitch goes up. When you slow down a tape, the pitch goes down. So our brains are wired to hear lower registers
Hmm.
as slower speech patterns and higher registers as faster.
I think it's that people who speak lower are dumber.
That must be the reason.
Again, ableist language. Don't say dumber. Just a suggestion to me from me to remember next time. And with that,
And
Ben,
speaking of
keep it
next
wrong.
time, keep it
Yeah.
wrong, Paul. I'll talk to you next
And
week.
how's it happening?
How's it happening? And whatever other thing we are supposed to say.